Okay, so our last little side note about viruses is going to be a brief discussion of how corona or COVID-19 works and how the vaccine works. So SARS-CoV-2, which is commonly referred to as COVID-19, it is a retrovirus, so it's an RNA type virus that's responsible for our current pandemic. This is the kind of cartoon of the shape that it has. So it has these RNA strands inside, and it has a membrane protein around the outside holding it in, envelope proteins. So those are kind of how it opens up if when needed and when it meets a host cell. And then there's something called spike proteins. And this is actually where coronaviruses get their names from. So they say that the spikes look like little crowns on top of their heads. And so corona, actually, I think it's Latin or Greek, I don't remember which one, but it is another language word for crown. So it's like a crown, a virus with crowns on it is how it got its name. And then 19, so COVID-19 stands for the fact that it was discovered, or this particular strain was discovered in 2019. Okay, so this spike proteins act as a key to allow the virus to enter the cell. So the spike proteins kind of trick the cell. They go, when they hit the membrane, they're like, oh, I'm allowed to be here. And the cell just unlocks and opens up to allow all of that virus to come into the cell. And then RNA has a code in it to make more, so that it has a code to make more of the parts of the cell using the cell's machinery. So just like we talked about the life cycle of virus cells, this RNA uses the machinery of the host cell to make more and more and more of this virus. As the virus parts are made, the virus will release new virus cells and infect other cells, again, exponentially growing. So it's very similar and typical to those life cycles that we talked about in earlier in this section. There is also on slide 14 here, so last slide, there is a actual video linked there to how this works. If you guys are interested in watching that video, it's pretty short, just a couple minutes long. So what's really interesting is, or at least currently, because of the climate and the fact that the COVID vaccines have been widely distributed. So there's a lot of talk around whether they are effective or safe. And a lot of that is ignorance in terms of like how the science actually works and believing if the science actually works or not. So based off of the science and what happens, I'll let you guys know, and you guys can make your own informed decisions about the vaccine yourself. So mRNA vaccines have been developed. So what they did, mRNA, as we've learned, is the messenger RNA. So it's what codes to make proteins. So what scientists did is they took the RNA for the whole virus, and they found out what part of the RNA codes only for the spike protein. So that's that spike on the edge. That's the actual recognition part of the molecule. So no part of the spike protein actually is responsible for building other parts of the virus. So actually replicating the full DNA of the virus or full RNA of the virus, that is not in the mRNA vaccine for COVID-19. So they made copies of the mRNA that codes specifically for just the spike protein. And then what that does is it allows your body to recognize that protein and now go ahead and develop antibodies for that protein now. So antibodies, what they kind of do is whenever they see that spike protein, the antibody covers it and kind of acts as like a glove. So anytime if you have the coronavirus vaccine, your body then has antibodies in its blood system, in its system already. So that if a real coronavirus 19 spike, or if the actual virus comes in, the antibodies are ready and can cover every single one of the spike proteins on the coronavirus, making it so that the virus cannot intrude and infect any cells in your body. Without that, your So if you do get coronavirus, your body still produces antibodies, but it can only produce them so fast, right? Your body has to recognize, oh, this is an invader. We don't want this. And then go and produce the antibodies. And in order to get them in a high enough concentration, by the time your body makes enough of it, the coronavirus has already replicated, and it's kind of out of control. So your body has to just kind of deal with it. So pretty much the idea of the COVID vaccine is that we're giving your body the tools to recognize the spike proteins and make it so that they are not, your body does not allow them to infect any host cells. So overall, what this means is that, yes, there is part of the coronavirus mRNA that can code for a part of the coronavirus, but the actual, the rest of it that codes for the reverse transcriptase or the protease, all of that stuff that's absolutely required for the replication and the life cycle of the coronavirus is not included in the vaccine. So it is normal to get sick when you get a coronavirus vaccine because your body recognizes an intruder and is creating antibodies for that. So it's normal to get sick. It's normal to not feel well, but that is only a part of the virus. It is not the whole virus. Therefore, it cannot replicate. It does not have the actual enzymes to modify your DNA, anything like that. All it has is the instructions on how to code for the protein of the spike protein. So that is all about COVID-19.